Stephen Mbide?
Down here in Rubaga division of the area being called Natete. But what is clear now is that parents, students, and of course teachers should be now warming up, because anytime we shall be seeing maybe schools being reopened. But we know what is a fact now, that is a meeting was held, a virtual meeting was held yesterday that included education officials, the teachers, school administrators, as well as proprietors and municipal education officers. And these people were trying to devise means of seeing that our children get back to schools, and then the lockdown on schools or education institutions gets to an end. And now Mr. Asad Kirabira is the national chairman of the National Private Education Institutions Association. It's going to help me understand what exactly transpired in that meeting, and when maybe do we expect these children to get back to school. Good morning to you, Mr. Kirabira.
Yes, thank you. And you're welcome, NTV, morning viewers, and thank you for viewing this program. I'm Kirabira Hassad, the national chairperson of the National Private Education Institutions in Uganda.
Okay, just bring me to speed. What exactly, away from the headlines, what exactly transpired in your meeting you had with the Minister of Education officials?
The meeting was basically held to harmonize the strategies that are meant to inform the reopening process of all education institutions in Uganda. And it was basically hinged on 7 issues, and these 7 issues, some could augur well, others need a bit of panel beating in order to fit within the targeted strategy of mitigating the risks associated to this pandemic in education institutions.
Let's begin with the issues that you, the teachers, the proprietors, raised with the ministry before they gave you their reply.
Basically, we are looking at the issue of surveillance being one of the issues that indicated gaps in education institutions, in the Ministry of Health and in the Ministry of Education. There were a lot of gaps in the internal working mechanisms of the schools. The systems in the schools were wanting to strengthen the surveillance of the SOPs in the schools, and the mechanisms.
And those are the standard operating procedures.
The standard operating procedures were not well observed, were not well supervised by the in-charges. That is one. 2, we wanted something to be done via that. 2, we had issues of screening learners, students as they come in. We think that the program should involve sending back learners who have cases, who seem to be having signs of COVID back home where they are coming from, to avoid them spreading the disease, most likely to the rest of the community in the schools. 2, 3, we are looking at the issue of sensitization. There must be a strategy on sensitization of the parents, sensitization of the learners, and also the students. The government should have an upper hand in this arrangement so that it is not left hanging. Otherwise, you might even open schools and parents fail to bring back the learners, or learners fail to come back. 4, we are looking at the issue of allowing the schools to have treatment centers. We have isolation centers, but we don't have treatment centers. Since COVID is treatable, we have doctors and nurses who should be empowered. We think government should work on the program of empowering our doctors and nurses in many of these schools. All schools which have almost all schools that have boarding sections, they have nurses.
But even before you go to the issue number 5, you remember during the first lockdown, after reopening, schools, some of them hid COVID-19 patients. Those students got the signs, the schools knew, but then they didn't report, even when they had the sick bays.
That situation is hypothetical, and we are saying we should bridge gaps because it was brought by a number of issues. as I said, it is not a school-meant program, issue, because learners come from home when they are already infected, which means there is an issue to strengthen where they are coming from to come to the schools. That's why I'm saying the issue of sensitizing parents should be taken important, because learners come from home where they have acquired the disease, spread it to others in the schools. Schools are empty, as you can see now here. There's no teacher, no what. Whoever comes in, for the teachers are going to be vaccinated and checked. For the learners, they are not going to be vaccinated and checked. So, meaning when they come with the disease from the home, from their homes. Therefore, we need to sensitize the parents. That's why we are saying bridging the gaps. Also, there was a gap in the Ministry of Education mechanism of surveillance, Ministry of Education mechanism for supervision. All of these gaps are now getting bridged by the new arrangement. So we think the treatments, and now we are talking about case management protocols that must be clearly identified and indicated to the schools. By that time, there was no emergency and case management protocols that were agreed upon and indicated to the schools to be followed up.
Okay, issue number 5.
Now, if that is done, it is okay. We shall follow up. We shall call out treatment in consultation. That means the teachers are empowered. We are also, issue number 5, we are looking at generally, the issue of having, of course, screening at the school centers, being linked to the mechanism of surveillance and having immediate responses to the schools. Because previously there were delays due to absence of clear flow of information. But now we are hopeful that the new system engages the in-charges at the school levels and shows what responsibility is ahead of them and what should be done in the case of emergencies and in the case of cases in the schools.
Okay, and what exactly did that? Because I know some of the people who attended that meeting was Dr. Canon Kedres Triaje, the Education Minister of Education, Director of Education Standards. What exactly do they tell you as the proprietors or the teachers of these schools?
There were a number of issues, but among others, of course, there is a revised surveillance mechanism, which I believe will take us a long way. 2, because it gives more responsibilities to the head teachers. 2, the issue of, besides surveillance, there is the issue of vaccination of teachers, which is on now. We think this one is imperative in a way that it is going to safeguard the teachers, set the pace for vaccination for the students also, and also indicate some kind of discipline in as far as this program of vaccination is concerned.
Is the minister still maintaining that before every teacher is vaccinated, before every teacher is not supposed to step into a class before vaccination? Is this still standing by that directive?
The ministry is standing by that directive, and
will you implement it?
And we also stand by it. That is so it is not about choice and it's not about rights. Rights cannot arise in the midst of a challenge like this one. So we think it is important, because your right might infringe on the rights of others also to be healthy and safe.
Let's speak also about the curriculum, because I heard that there's going to be a change in the curriculum. How is this going to affect the operations within the schools, but also, of course, also on the impact of the general education system? Because there have been complaints about the output from these education institutions. Now, if you alter at this particular moment, what will be the impact on the output, but also on the curriculum?
The curriculum was strategy number 3 that government is looking forward to fast track in this reinvention process. But maybe we are looking at the curriculum in terms of conceptualization. And we believe that the conceptualization of the curriculum is one of the ways to go if we are to go out of the current crisis. But only that it should be limited to particular levels, nursery, primary and secondary. And we think it shouldn't go as far as universities and other tertiary institutions are concerned, because it has issues to deal with the what the standard and the quality of the labor force to keep professionals like doctors, teachers, and engineers. Therefore, the conceptualization can help us in these other lower levels, and we know the adjustments we can catch up at a later time. But the problem is now how to decentralize, how to pluralize this curriculum, so that all the cohorts in the education institutions countrywide are able to know what should be fast tracked according to NCDC and what should be left out. Because if this is not clearly decentralized and sensitized, we shall get problems and issues as far as the summative assessments are concerned. Because UNEB will basically base on the provisions of the National Curriculum Development Centers, and the schools will be teaching contrary to what they have provided. So there is a need to sensitize all of the stakeholders in education, pluralize this new arrangement, and also ensure that the teachers embrace it and understand it.
Remember, during the first lockdown, when schools were being reopened, we saw those candidate classes, P7, Senior 4, Senior 6, and of course the sub-candidates were the ones to report back to schools. But now information coming in shows that you've agreed with the ministry to go for P1, P2, Senior 1, Senior 2. What formed the thinking? Because we would think that maybe this candidate class will still be needed in class to prepare for the end of year examinations, those UNEB examinations. What formed this thinking that you have to go for these lower classes first?
Of course, a conclusion has not been arrived at. But the ministry is also trying to finally make appropriate decisions on this. But we are also requesting that the primaries, I mean the lower primary, the nurseries, that has never reported to school, at least be given a chance, because they are withering away. And also in secondary, we think a choice should be given to the starters, the senior ones, the senior 3, and the senior 5. 3 is going to 4, 5 is going to 6. And now here in primary, we are fast tracking in nursery and lower primary, and P6. That's our wish. This will help us to provide continuity, have continuity at all levels. We have finalists, and even those who have never come to school, at least they are there to be oriented for at least one term, and then they are promoted, not automatically as the ministry is saying, but they are promoted after preparation, okay? Some kind of preparation for the next class.
My guy, let's wrap up the show.
These learners, we know that if we continue dragging them outside, it is going to have a big generation gap. And as you are aware, of course there are 2.4 million learners who always have to jet in as new entrants in primary. If for the last 2 years they are not coming and we have a backlog, then we are seeing an overpopulation of 8-point-something million who are going to be redundant and who might not be able to be in school. That will have an impact on the community, an impact on the streets, and all of that. So we are hopeful that the government embraces this program, and we are behind it. We want to give confidence to the Ministry of Education that we shall work together to make sure that there is safe reopening of schools.
Thank you so much, Asad Chiravira, the National Chairperson of National Private Education Institutions. Let's first take a short commercial break, and then Morning at 10 TV continues shortly.